Hey, deserving listeners, this is Chapter 5, I believe, in our deep dive on the psychology of JonBenet Ramsey. Humberto Castaneda is walking us through the story. Today, I believe we're going over
Intruders.
IDI, Intruder did it theories. Take it away, Berto. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. This is the Psychology in Seattle YouTube channel and podcast. The full episodes are available on Patreon if you want to become a patron. And who are you, Berto?
My name is Humberto Castaneda, and I extract all the vitamins from the seawater. All right. So, IDI. Intruder did it. So we've mentioned before in the previous episodes that there's sort of like two main camps. There's the Ramseys did it camp, and that one subdivides, of course, into it. Like it was John, it was Patsy, it was Burke, it was a combo. Okay, so I made a mistake in previous episodes because I mentioned that John Andrew Ramsey. I was thinking that was John Ramsey's brother, and therefore would have been JonBenet's, the little girl's uncle.
So this is the semen guy.
Yeah, the one whose blanket with apparently some semen was found in a suitcase. Yes.
Okay.
But it turns out that that's actually JonBenet's older half-brother.
I see.
Yeah. So he's actually John's son, but he is much older because John had been married once already, had 3 kids. One was the daughter who died in a car crash. The other one was this guy, John Andrew Ramsey.
I see.
In either case, the Ramsey did it theory can include him too, you know. Then you could figure out, like, they have family friends that you could accuse, and maybe they sit in the Ramsey did it, but probably not. That might be more like Intruder did it. In either case, the other camp is Intruder did it. Now, the general idea here is that instead of someone that was already in the house, someone broke in either the night before or early that morning or whatever, and was the responsible party for both killing JonBenet and the ransom note.
Right. You were saying that there's a theory that someone got into the house before they even got home and was just waiting.
Right.
Or they broke in after they went to bed, or any number of things. There were 9 different ways to get in, multiple windows someone could have crawled through, multiple places someone could hide while they were out, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly. So first I'm going to go over, before we talk about specific suspects, I'm going to talk about the types of evidence that people would point to as potential, signs that there was an intruder. The first one is, we mentioned that there was foreign male DNA found in both the underwear and the underneath the nails of JonBenet. In 1997, 1998, there was initial testing that found trace male DNA. Now, just one thing is that there's been a lot of pushback and debate about the quality of that DNA, whether it's actually one person or sort of like a mishmash of DNA that got misidentified as being just one individual male DNA. And spoiler alert, they have never found a match for any of it. Okay. In 2003 and 2008, they did a newer type of test. It's called short tandem repeat. And they did more of those touch DNA tests. And they did reconfirm that there was some consistent foreign male DNA. Okay, trace samples, but there's more evidence that, there seems to be some. Now, again, the underwear and stuff like that, it could be from whoever made the underwear, or it could be any number of things. Also, they only have samples of DNA for people that are like criminals generally, because usually, like, normal citizens, they don't like go collecting everyone's DNA.
Right. I mean, back then for sure.
Right.
But now,
of course, they did collect samples from the family. But did they collect samples from everyone that was at the party the previous day?
But the question I have is about 23andMe and all the other places. They will find a partial match and say, oh, this person is a relative, and then they start zeroing.
Which, by the way, John Ramsey nowadays has been working with investigators trying to use those kinds of techniques to see if they can spot some sort of connection, to that. That's one area. It's the foreign male DNA. And it's important because, if it doesn't seem to match any of the Ramseys, and it's in both the underwear and the nails, it's really weird, right? There's not an easy, simple explanation for why that is, right? Doesn't mean it is, but the second one is I mentioned the signs of possible sexual assault. Now, this was an interesting one because, as we also said, you can have sexual assault by a family member. But given that we also discussed that no one had ever reported other signs of that, the doctor was like, I don't think there's ever. it makes it possible or plausible, like, okay, maybe it's someone else. And it doesn't mean that it's a total stranger. It could be someone they know that's just not someone that lives in the house with them. There's a third thing, which I might have mentioned, but I'll just mention again, is high-tech boot print, meaning high-tech brand boot print found on the ground in the basement. The Ramseys didn't seem to have boots like that.
What was the state of the boot print?
There was a boot print on the ground,
like dirt or something.
Yeah, like on the dirt of the ground in the basement.
On the dirt or dirt on the ground?
No, on the like dust or dirt on the like. No, it didn't seem like someone dragged in dirt. It's just on the ground, like the
and
film
it was
covering the ground.
Kind of fresh looking. I guess it could be months old.
Yeah,
and it just wouldn't.
I don't have that data, and also, let's put it this way: it could have been from a police person, right? And it was a partial high-tech hiking boot print, but there was a boot print, and it's like John Ramsey doesn't own high-tech boots, Patsy doesn't. There was some debate because Burke claimed he owned boots with the same logo as high-tech boots logo. He didn't say, yeah, I had high-tech boots, but he said he had boots with that logo that is the same logo as the high-tech boots.
Well, you would think they would differentiate between a 9-year-old boy's boots and an adult. I'm assuming it's not an adult.
They didn't match any pattern for the shoes for the Ramseys.
So I'm guessing it's not a child's boot size because that would be very noticeable.
Probably not, yeah. And he was only 9, so it's not like, 12, Yeah. You could say it's a partial boot print. Maybe it is a child, like size-wise, maybe the heel is still the same size or whatever.
But if it's a boot print, I'm pretty sure you could tell just looking at it, honestly.
Maybe.
I guess maybe not.
Yeah. But either way, they didn't match it to the Ramseys. Okay. Yeah. The next one is an unidentified palm print. There was a palm print on the wine cellar door that did not match any family member or regular visitor.
Again, could be cop.
It could be a cop, or it could be someone from 6 months ago. I don't know. Yeah. But it's another bit. And then the possible entry point. We talked about the broken basement window. We talked about Burke saying that he thinks he left the front door unlocked that night. We talked about the number of windows and doors in the house, right? Now, cops, both John and the cops said that all the doors and windows were secure. The cops didn't notice any sign of breaking and entering, but there was a broken window in the basement that John later claimed had been open.
Yeah. And like many other things, one would think that if you were staging a break-in and you were the parents who killed JonBenet Ramsey, that you would somehow figure out a way to make it look like there was forced entry. It wouldn't be that hard. Just leave something open, or
like break a window and leave it open.
Yeah,
and then mention it to the cops right away.
Right, and
don't close it.
That didn't happen. So
he instead didn't mention it.
Not that murderers don't mess up sometimes, because they do.
So the ransom note is also interesting because we talked about how Patsy could in fact have been the author based on handwriting. But then there's also a lot of weirdness to the ransom note. And so some folks that are on the IDI camp think that this points more to like someone that's just not well in the head, and then they're trying to write these weird things. Maybe.
Right. Again, if you're staging some kind of fake intruder, again, if you killed her, why would you stage a kidnapping before you call the cops when you know, unless, I guess the theory that I'm reminding myself of theories, that they thought that, the parents didn't know about what the other one was doing.
Right.
And the father or the mother thought she would have time to get rid, or I guess it would be the father who thought he would have time, but then she randomly called 911 or something. Anyway.
Yeah.
But I just want to say for the record where I'm at is, I don't know if people care, but I'm 50-50. Like, I'm right down the middle. Not that I'm going back and forth necessarily. I've been like almost like 0% on everything for a long time because it's, I think, a better critical thinking position to have in this situation of like, well, I don't know. I mean, it could be aliens at this point. So there's too many theories. So I'm 0%. As I've gotten more and I've edited the episodes that we've already recorded, and that gives me time to sort of hear it again and everything, that I am right down the middle. But I would not put a lot of money on either because there's just a lack of evidence.
Right.
And I could see why this would be a compelling story, because there's just enough evidence to make it seem like one or the other. And there's enough emotional power and passion underneath this because, we have a problem with sexual abuse in this country. It's also true crime, murder. You have rich people doing something, and you have the beauty pageant. But then you also have cops that make mistakes. People have resentment against cops. You have parents that are possibly being accused of something that isn't true. It's just got it all over the board. And it's just this magical, if you created a story that would last decades and have Reddit boards that are active and a whole podcast, you said, that's just dedicated to this, then this is what you would do.
Yeah. Okay, one last piece of evidence that I hadn't mentioned before, because I was holding it back for this. There were additional marks found on JonBenet. There were 2 dots in 2 different places, on her neck and on her face. 2 reddish, dark dots.
Like circular or just?
Yeah, little circles. Almost like a vampire. Seriously, almost like a vampire. But it wasn't punctured. But they were it looked either like from a result of something pressing against it or maybe irritating it. There were 2, both on the face and on the neck. Lateral lower back and on the face. Sorry, not the neck. Okay. These were discussed. Initially, they weren't thought of much. I don't know how that happened, but there was someone named Lou Smith, who is apparently a very famous crime solver. He had solved a lot of previously hard to solve murders and things like this, and he got involved in the case. And just so you know, he eventually retired, but continued working for the Ramseys, essentially. I think probably for free. This was just his life's passion to try to solve this. And he always believed the Ramseys were innocent. And he proposed that this could have been done by a taser gun. He looked at the spacing. He thought, ooh, that's about the right spacing. They did some tests on pig skin, and they seemed to leave marks that were similar.
Wait, so a contact taser or a taser gun?
Not a gun, a contact taser.
I see.
Yeah,
okay.
That kind of thing.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that was the theory. And then to go along with this, it's the parents don't even own a taser, much less why would they use a taser on the child? That was part of their thing. So you grab all these bits of data, and then folks started constructing what could have happened if it was an intruder. So why don't you walk me through what you think could have happened if it was an intruder? What would be the timeline in your mind? But from what you know.
Well, there's a number of possibilities at the top of the hypotheses list, but somehow someone got in, the family didn't know, either before or after they got home, and then when everyone was in bed, and I'm guessing that there was pineapple consumed, and if it was Intruder did it, the parents messed up the next day by saying, because they were in such trauma, that they said, that wasn't us, that must have been the killer, and they just forgot. And then later they felt like they had to uphold that. So the pineapple had nothing to do with it. And then the intruder goes to the room. She's in a different wing of the house. This is a very large house, different set of stairs even that goes up to her part of the house, JonBenet Ramsey. He could have even climbed in through the balcony. Anyway, so he gets into the house, pretty easily gets control of her. She's a tiny little 6-year-old girl. So backing up, assuming it's a guy, it usually is, but it could be a woman, but intruder, violence, the profile fits a guy. Anyway, before going up to the room, he randomly comes across, and he's someone that knows the family, knows the names, somehow knew of the $118,000 bonus check, which narrows it down
quite a bit. Yeah.
But depending though, because, if the payroll records were available at work or something, and then someone was complaining to another, JonBenet Ramsey got 118 grand, I only got 58 grand, or it's anyway, and then he scribbles out this confused, strange, idiosyncratic note, thinking that he's going to extort money, but he's not the most sharpest tack in the box, and he gets JonBenet Ramsey. He has plans to assault sexually her anyway after, during the kidnapping, after bringing her in a van or somewhere. And then, so he gets both. He gets to assault and harm, and he gets money out of it. But in the passion of the moment, or JonBenet is proving to be a little bit more of a fighter, or he hears something and in a fit of rage, even, he kills her and gets his jollies in that way and doesn't retrieve the kidnapping note and just waltzes out of the house without being noticed. That's in that category would be, I think, the most likely thing if an intruder did it.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't put a lot of money on it.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically, you hit, I think, the main points. So the proponents in general would say, I'll just recount, this will sound very familiar to what you just said. Intruder enters the house late at night via basement, window, or other point, encounters JonBenet, assaults her sexually. To silence or control her, inflicts blunt force head injury, and or strangles her with a cord garrote, almost at the same time.
But we have to add that, so he also gets rope in the house.
The rope
the rope might have not.
Yeah.
But he gets a paintbrush from the house and applies it to the rope that he brought.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? Because I don't know, maybe there's some logical reason, but if you're binding a child, because that was the garrote, was the paintbrush on the neck implement or on the hand, on the tying her up?
The paintbrush part, the part of the paintbrush was tied around one end of the rope, but it wasn't
for the neck.
Yeah, but it wasn't right up against the neck. The neck was there was a loop around the neck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't think you would need that to get, because usually you do that to get leverage. Mm-hmm. So why would you need that for a 6-year-old tiny little girl?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. So because
usually you do that because you really want leverage because you're trying to overpower someone that's your size, or I don't know.
So
but anyway, we're supposed to believe that,
Yeah.
that he did that. But I guess if we're saying that he also grabbed the pad and pen from the house, then it's not a stretch to say he grabbed that too. I don't know.
So to give the most forgiving version, maybe the one that John might say, the reason he had all the time in the world to write the notice because he was already in the house while they were at the party and he was looking around. And so let's say that the real motive is the girl and not the money, because if it were just the money, if you're in a millionaire's house by yourself for apparently hours, there's probably so much stuff you could steal that you might actually be able to get up to $100,000.
I don't know. I
like jewelry,
I've had
watches, electronics, everything.
I've had my house broken into at least once. It's funny that you get old, you think, has it been twice? At least once. And they did that. They just ransacked. In fact, as a funny detail, they came into the house and, again, like the theory here, these two guys just grabbed. They didn't have anything with them. Mm-hmm. They were clearly, because there were I had a retired police officer that lived across the street.
Yeah,
and he saw these two suspicious guys walking around in the neighborhood. These two white guys walking around the neighborhood, and noted it, but didn't watch long enough to see these two guys just walk.
Right.
But anyway, and at the time I was doing a little bit of construction, which made it, long story short, a bit of an easy target. And so when they came in, they grabbed bags that were available. They didn't have any implements. They didn't have any tools. They used my construction tools to break the window.
Okay.
They used my construction tools to climb in the window. They grabbed my bags, my tote bags.
Wow.
And they just opened the fridge, took Rainier beer in cans because they're underage and they apparently or they just want literally the cheapest beer you can buy.
Yeah.
They pile it into this tote bag. They are, you can see the kind of path as they work through the house. They get to my office. They open up my cabinet. They see my Xbox. Mm-hmm. They dump out all of the beer in my office.
Okay.
And I mean, I'm
you're reconstructing it, yeah.
They take my Xbox, but not the power supply or any of the cords because they're just ripping it out of the thing. So they just have the console, whatever, with probably a game in there.
And your saved game data.
Yeah, this is before it would be perpetually online anyway. And then they grabbed a CD player, a portable CD player that was probably worth $5, and it had a bunch of stickers on it, a bunch of silly stickers. Mm-hmm. So it was a pretty goofy looking old portable CD. This is 2005 or something, when little portable CD players were kind of on the outs.
Right.
Like CDs were already sort of starting to go towards, iPod and stuff. And maybe like a calculator or something. Afterwards, insurance reimbursed. Actually, I probably profited because they reimburse based on like replaceability, and it's not like I'm going to replace the CD player. Don't tell my insurance company. But anyway, so I did think about it at the time, like how easy would it be to, in the spur of the moment, you don't have a truck that's right outside. You have to just grab whatever you can, because in your head you're just thinking, well, with electronics and stuff, it's probably like thousands of dollars worth of stuff. But it actually wasn't that way. I was actually like, oh, it would be kind of hard to find, unless you had
find valuable stuff.
Yeah, like diamonds.
Yeah, jewelry is where I was thinking mostly. But you're right. Or if they have actually a safe with money or something. And
Our house was broken into a second time.
Yeah.
So what happened was we were moving, Stacy and I, and the moving trucks were, ferrying back and forth, right? And Stacy wasn't comfortable bringing all of her valuable stuff to the new house. And so the only thing in the entire house were her jewelry.
Oh, no.
And her very expensive camera equipment, like thousands of dollars, lenses and cameras, and her very expensive laptop. Like her Apple top of the line, like Photoshop laptop. Like, and it was like a nice little pile just waiting. And then and then we all went to the other house, and people, there were people that must do this as a thing.
Yeah.
They like wait and see moving trucks, and they figure in the chaos, it's easier to break into someone's. And again, looking at evidence, they didn't bring any tools, and they're in the broad daylight. Same.
Wow.
They walk up to the front door, and they grab my shovel, and they start jamming it into the door to try to break in. That doesn't work though, because they're not geniuses.
Sure.
So then they walk down the stairs right by the entrance, and there's a window that's open.
Oh.
That was left open in all likelihood, and they just slid it open. It's not slided. And crawled in.
Slitted it.
And they're walking through the house. And then sitting in a little pile is like probably $15,000 worth of stuff. I don't know. And the jewelry wasn't like expensive. It was
but it's
a lot of family heirlooms.
But jewelry is a very efficient thing that you can steal because it's small generally, and yet it's worth way more than its size.
Right. Yeah. So I have been broken into twice. Oof. And I'm so old that I forgot about the second one, which is the more recent one. But my point is that when I think about IDI, we tend to think about CSI. It kind of ruins our understanding of crime, that these are geniuses, that these are well-planned things.
Right.
A lot of these kinds of crimes are in the moment and not conducted by the sharpest tacks in the bunch.
Sure.
And sometimes they just get lucky, so to speak, and then we're left trying to piece it together. Because like when I walk in, just imagine you walk in the house and the first thing you see is just a bunch of Rainier beer cans.
Right, everywhere.
And you're thinking,
what?
Like, how? And it took me a while to kind of piece it together, right?
Yeah.
And then it took me a while to figure out, they took one of my tote bags. I mean, who's keeping track of your tote bags?
Right.
On like a little shelf or something. So they took the tote. So, and it could be other things that could have happened too. And the fact that they broke the window makes it clear how they got in.
Right.
But imagine if you didn't have that. Imagine if something was open or there already was a broken window. It's not inconceivable to me, given my experiences, that you can have a random person that doesn't know what they're doing, is unsophisticated, doesn't even really have a plan, gets into the house, creates all sorts of havoc, gets out, and they don't leave a trace.
Yeah. It's possible. And to your point, if that person was there for a long time, maybe they did look around for stuff they could steal and they're like, there's nothing. But again,
let's take a break.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry for interrupting you. And when we get back, we'll continue.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, back from the break. Sorry for interrupting. I'll give myself a yikes. By the way, you can get this merch on our merch thing. Berto, take it away.
Actually, when I was going to walk out of the house, I was wearing this, and I see my wife. My wife goes, yikes. Actually, she might have gone, yikes, yikes, yikes. And I'm like, what's happening? And I forgot. And then just now when we were setting up.
Yeah, when you're setting up, you were looking at yourself in the monitor, and you go, and I'm setting up the camera, and you're like, yikes, yikes, yikes. And I'm like, what happened?
Yeah, we're blind to our own. Okay, so to continue being charitable to the explanation, and maybe their plan is like, okay, I know a little bit about this family. Maybe I'm obsessed with JonBenet. Maybe I am like, a pedophile or something. I'm obsessed. And so I'm going to, at the very least, do stuff, but maybe I can get some money out of this, or maybe I'm just going to try to cover my tracks. Either way, I have time. So I find a pad, I find a pen, and I write down crazy ransom note.
You're alluding to this, but I suppose the other hypothesis is that he purposely entered the house to rape and kill her. Right. He does that. Then in his mind, he thinks, well, it'll give me more time if I stash the body somewhere and then write this note. It'll throw everyone off, and then I can get away. And I'll sprinkle in all these kind of random details that will
throw people off. Yeah. And so then I find JonBenet. I take her down to the basement. I use my stun thing on her a couple times, which causes pain and suffering, but maybe that's the scream that the neighbor hears. I'm actually using the garrote more as like a sexual thing, like a control / sexual thing.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah. And so I'm doing that. But then I'm done, or I freak out or whatever, or she's being too screaming. I don't know, because then I hit her over the head with something. And now I stash the body in this room that I found downstairs, and then I close the door, and then I exit, and I think, well, they'll probably be misdirected by the ransom note, so yeah, and then I just leave. So that's kind of like the theory in general that maybe John or proponents of IDI would have, with obviously a billion variants within, but roughly that kind of thing. I was trying really hard to just tell it like that, but I do find so many issues with it. But okay, so points of dispute. There are some criticisms, of course, and I'm not going to go over all of them right now, but I'm going to go over some of the main ones. The DNA that was found could be trace or transfer DNA from clothing manufacturing or other contamination, not necessarily from the killer. For example, it is like they were at a party just the previous day. A lot of people might have carried JonBenet, had her. Someone might have been sexually abusing her at the party. There's so many things that could have been happening. She didn't come home and take a bath. No one says she took a bath. They say she was already asleep, and they put her to bed in the clothes, right? Like they said, she was already asleep. We put her to bed, right? So whatever was happening at the party was still on her body.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to tell. Basement entry. Well, there wasn't any obvious forced entry. And on the entry photos, like the photos of that window that was open and had the broken, there were cobwebs that looked pretty entrenched. And yes, spiders can redo the cobwebs, but those photos were supposedly from that morning, and there were undisturbed cobwebs. So if someone had gone through, they would have had to be really skinny and super, get lucky enough, or maybe see the cobwebs and think, ooh, if I leave them undisturbed, and so I'm just gonna really slink. And then this guy that I was mentioning, that the investigator, Lou Smith, actually filmed himself going through, and he was able to go through, which is not surprising because John himself claimed that that's how he had gone into the house more than once. But when you see the film, he's not a huge guy, he's a skinny guy. It's obvious that it takes the whole frame. So it seems impossible for a man to go through that window without just dragging stuff. And
I don't know if we mentioned this specifically before, but there's a possibility that John killed JonBenet or knew that Patsy did and was trying to cover it up. But before calling the cops, he staged a break-in, breaks the window. Then the cops show up, and impulsively in the moment, he just is like, oh shit, what if my DNA, he's not thinking
he second guesses.
And he's like, oh shit, I'll just say, oh no, that was me a while. Because it is fishy that he, in the middle of December, where are they? Oh, they're in Colorado,
Boulder,
right?
Yeah.
So this is quite cold.
Yeah.
And he breaks the window and doesn't cover it up with plastic even.
Right. And even more so, says that they keep it open to cool the basement.
Yeah, which might be him doubling down on trying to say, well, no, it's not I didn't fix it because it gets hot down there. In fact, sometimes I leave what?
Yeah, so it's definitely hard. It's a lot of, but it's not killer proof. It's
No.
Yeah. Yeah. The other pushback is that the ransom note is very long and theatrical. And it has the specific dollar figure. So it's again, it can be that the intruder could have been either someone that knew John, maybe worked with him, or could have gone through the house, saw apparently in John's office there were the bank receipts or something, the pay stub or something that had the amount. Could be.
Yeah, again, it's just right down the middle for me.
Yeah.
That in a fit of, oh my God, what do I do? I killed my daughter. He just randomly says, oh yeah, I got that thing, and I'm trying to frame this guy at work.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really work out that way in the end. Or it's someone that is just looking around the house, because obviously if it is an intruder, he got a pad and pen as well and was maybe rummaging through things to try to steal something.
And maybe he was originally going to steal stuff, but then he's like, ooh, I could actually just get money from, I don't know.
Right. Because if you're going to say it's not the parents, then why would you be so specific about something that only some people know? You think you would just say $1 million. It wouldn't be that hard. So it's just, again, it's just right down the middle.
The next one is the sexual assault injuries. So not to get graphic or anything, but there's a lot of crimes we've covered and that you can hear about and talk about where the sexual assault is brutal and it's obvious and there's tons of DNA and it's horrible. That's not this case. The examination revealed, as we mentioned, sort of acute and chronic inflammation in areas. But there was definitely no like, oh yes, this child was obviously raped by a grown male or something like this. Like that was not a conclusion from the coroner. And so any number of things could have happened, right? That this could have been, hey, she is kind of being sexually molested by someone over time and maybe even at the party or whatever. Or it could be someone in the household. It could be the brother or the dad or the mom or whatever. And neither of those could have anything to do with the murder, for one thing, right? But the one thing that definitely didn't happen is the child was not brutally sexually assaulted in an obvious fashion and then killed.
Side note, did QAnon grab onto this?
Slightly, yes. There were some pictures. Of because they had those pageants, right? There were some pictures in which there's a lady that looks somewhat like Ghislaine Maxwell. What's her name's associate?
Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah. And so then there was this thing about, oh, maybe this was part of the huge pedophile ring.
Yeah, this seems
and
right
so they
down
were having these crazy sex parties with the children, and then one went wrong, and blah blah. Yeah.
Yeah. This seems
definitely part of the theories.
Right up their alley.
Yeah.
And the marks were adrenochrome being pulled out, literally.
Yeah, vampire adrenochrome. Yeah, absolutely. And then lastly, the high-tech boot prints could be old, innocent traces from a prior visitor or responder. So lots of things to push back on. Okay. Another thing. So just to be clear, no intruder has ever been charged. So that's important.
Wait, I mean, you haven't told me if anyone has been charged.
I know, but the last episode, our final episode after this...
Context clues, or maybe even literally we saw a clip of the parents saying that they haven't been charged, at least by the time they were on Larry King or something. But I was under the impression that no one got charged.
In our final episode, we'll talk about the trial, but just spoiler alert, no intruder has ever been charged. Let's talk about some suspects. Because you're like, well, are there even any suspects? Or is it just like someone, right? There were suspects. Also, I teased you last time, and I told you that we would talk about the confession. Well, before we get to the confession, let's talk about some of the other suspects. Santa Claus is one of the suspects in this case.
So like a mall Santa?
Oh, it's not the real... yes. It's more than a mall Santa. It's actually a Santa that they knew, that had come to their party.
Oh, like a hired Santa?
Yeah, it was kind of a well-known guy in town. He has the big old Santa beard. We'll see a little video in a second here. His name was Santa Bill McReynolds. What a name, right? Santa Bill McReynolds.
I won't be specific, but I know firsthand of a pedophile Santa.
Oh.
If you were a pedophile, this could be one of the ways you could hide.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a guess to say the vast, vast, vast majority of Santas are not. But if you wanted to get away with touching children and getting in close contact, this would be the way.
Okay, well, retired journalism professor Santa Bill McReynolds, sometimes played Santa Claus at Boulder holiday parties, had visited the Ramseys' home shortly before Christmas, knew the family, knew JonBenet, and had brought a small vial of glitter as a gift for JonBenet. So this isn't a stranger, not entirely. It's someone they know. He's been to the house. He knows JonBenet and had even given her a gift. Okay.
Like that year?
That same Christmas. Yeah, like the previous days.
So he could have seen the pay stub or even heard
any
something.
number of things, yes. There was some note about his eccentricity, and maybe, to your point, maybe there was some sort of suspicion because he is a Santa, and maybe people were like, I don't know. I didn't think about that, honestly. Like, you've just now ruined both my childhood, and actually, there was no Santa in my childhood because in Colombia it was baby Jesus, but
really,
yeah, in Colombia we didn't have Santa Claus when I was a kid.
Baby Jesus comes down the chimney?
Nope, no chimney.
Oh.
At midnight on the 24th, baby Jesus would leave presents under your pillow.
He'd walk around in his diapers?
I think it's more ethereal than that. I think he just kind of manifests down and leaves, presents under your pillows.
Right.
And let me tell you, they were cool presents.
I mean, if someone's going to fit down a chimney, I think baby Jesus.
Baby Jesus actually makes a lot more sense to go down chimneys.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But we didn't have
baby
chimneys.
Jesus have like a clothes on, or because usually baby Jesus is kind of swaddled in a blanket?
Maybe one of those little white swaddle things, kind of floating
By the
around.
way, I love hearing about this. Have you heard of the Dutch Santa, like Saint Nick thing? I don't know if they do this anymore, but up until rather recently, they have this figure, like Father Christmas kind of guy, a Saint Nick or whatever, and he has always black slaves that are following him around.
What?
Or 5 black.
Oh my God.
They're always black guys, and it's some. I don't know. And the Dutch were prolific slave traders.
Sure.
So I don't know the history there, but
yikes.
It's been sort of
yikes.
Yeah. Now I'm guessing that if we look at any practice,
right.
Like even when you think of marriage and the father bringing the bride down, it was because women were possessions and the girl was a possession of the father, and now he's handing her off for husbandry, that kind of thing. When you look at that, you're like, oh, look what you're doing. It's just like, well, it doesn't mean that anymore. Right. Now it just is an expression of love and stuff. And certainly there's overtones and whatnot, but it's not. So you can have 5 black guys and not necessarily be saying they're slaves. But anyway, I just love hearing this. So it's a baby Jesus.
All right. So either way, it's interesting that you point out that maybe Santa would be a profession of you. Well, so in either case, it brought some suspicion because he knew the family. And Patsy was told by a friend of hers that little JonBenet had told her, Patsy's friend, they were having a conversation, the adult and JonBenet, about Santa. And JonBenet had said, Santa promised he's going to visit me after Christmas. He's going to do a special visit. And the adult said, oh, no, Santa's coming tonight or whatever. And that JonBenet allegedly had said, oh, no. He promised me he's going to do a special visit.
Yeah, I mean, that could be any number of things. JonBenet could be
conclusive proof.
Yeah, JonBenet could be confused. The friend could be confused about what she heard from JonBenet. Or the guy said, I'm going to make a special visit to your family. And
or he could be a killer, and that's it. But that was, so now that's not like the cops heard that and they're like, let's go arrest him. It's another interesting data point. Okay. So what do you think was the outcome?
Well, one, I'm guessing that guy is still being harassed by a fucking mob online and doxing him and following him around. I'm just going to take a guess about that.
Here's the outcome. Number 1, DNA did not match. And when I say DNA did not match, it's not just that foreign male DNA and the underwear and nails didn't match. There's just no DNA of Santa found in the basement or any of the murder. No fingerprints either. Right, so it just wasn't a match. He had a solid alibi.
Is Santa the main suspect of Intruder? Oh,
no.
Okay.
No. He also had a solid alibi, and he was never charged. Meaning solid alibi, like there were witnesses, like he was at a specific place, other things. They did interview him. He said he really loved, like he thought she was such a beautiful, wonderful little girl. He would never hurt her, but of course, a killer might say that too. He died in 2002, and he was generally considered cleared. So none of the serious investigators, even the ones that were pro-IDI, were like, it was Santa, right? It just was one of those weird things like, well, he was there, and there was this weird thing that JonBenet purportedly had said to someone.
Yeah, I mean, given how little evidence there is, if we are hypothesizing about an intruder, then it literally could be anyone.
Yeah.
It could be someone that doesn't know the family, that knew enough of the family named by a listing or broke into the house and then just figured out things as he was in there, or she, or someone that knew the family. Like it just could be anyone.
That's right. Yeah.
So yeah, Santa is on that list of anyone.
The other thing is he was older and like sick and frail. So him crawling through the basement was also kind of put into question. But all right, so that's it for the segment. And then in the patron zone, we're going to go over more of the suspects.
And a confession, apparently.
Oh, definitely the confession.
And everyone out there, become a patron and listen to the rest or watch the rest. Otherwise, please take care of yourself because
you deserve it.